we talk about the respiration, the biomechanics. Respiratory muscles must be very strong, and the rib cage must be very flexible and as large as possible. It means that your lungs have volume. A good way to strengthen your diaphragm is to put it under pressure. And what happens when you inhale is that you feel the push outwardly, and you're going to try to push, keep pushing. And you want to feel the effort because you are pushing the limits of your diaphragm. So it's like if you were to do a biceps curls, you can do it very slowly because you can control that muscle. You want to control the diaphragm the same way. In the BreathHoldWork method, there are 3 pillars. There's the breathing mastery, breath holding, but most importantly, and also meditation. I have a long background of athletic physical activity, and I love the physicality. To be performing at that high level of physicality, I need my mind to be in the right place.
Where'd you pick up on some of this stuff? Where'd some of this start for you? Thank you for showing all this stuff to us in the park today. All the different movement stuff and the breathing, and where'd you pick up on some of this stuff? Where'd some of this start for you?
Along the way. It's been a long way. I'm in my 50s. But let's say it starts with, if we talk about natural movement, because all that was natural movement. It starts where everybody, because we all go through the same developmental sequence of movement skills that are specific to our species. So if you're a member of a human species, you're not going to move like a dolphin or an eagle or a guinea pig. You're going to move like little human animals do, regardless of being in Europe, United States, Africa, Asia, it doesn't matter. All kids move the same. So they start, they're placing their back, supine position, they flip to prone position. They start to use their arms. They do army crawl, baby crawl. They start to elevate the position. They go on their knees, knee hand crawl, foot hand crawl, move up and down the stairs. Okay. That behavior is not taught. It's not shown by their parents. It's instinctive, universally. There's a reason for that. The reason is that's what you need to grow up to become physically capable, so you acquire physical autonomy and you can survive in the wild. So even if kids are born and raised in completely artificial environments, and most are, their behaviors do not become artificial. They're not like, I can't do this because I'm going to break a piece of furniture or I'm going to hurt myself. They just do it, and they enjoy doing it, and they need to do it all the time. It's like it's a drive. It's a powerful drive. So you probably remember being that kid. Nsima will remember also being that kid. We all of us remember being that kid that just loved to move. And we moved in those natural ways. Now we can explain what natural means, but we didn't start with thinking, well, look, I'm 1 year old. It's pretty time that I take care of my fitness now. So I'm learning biceps curls. I'm learning to do a proper deep squat or heavy squats because I need strength and conditioning. That's not the way it starts. The foundation is naturalness, means wide scope of movement, like wide range of movement. Locomotion, going from point A to point B. But even before locomotion, it's interesting in regard to manipulative skills, because kids start to grab stuff and toss stuff. I love to grab and toss stuff. So the manipulation of objects is also part of that, which turns into later on, it turned to throwing sports, catching stuff, or lifting and carrying. But the foundation is really the locomotion, because you're not do you have any grain plant here? We're not meant to be plants in a pot. We're supposed to move through space, and only to move through space. But those spaces are going to be wild, untamed, sometimes completely unpredictable, lots of variations of terrains, of surfaces. How do you navigate those environments and those variables? Through your body, without hurting yourself to begin with, because the moment you're injured, that's it, you're done. What can you do? And secondly, with the highest efficiency possible. Typically because you're procuring food, you're looking for opportunities to survive, so food, whatever resource, or avoiding threats. So those are ancestral, they are evolutionary necessities of life. All wild animals find themselves facing those realities in their natural environment, unless if they are not wild anymore, they're pets, and they're just like us. They grow up in artificial environments, they're fed artificial food, industrial food, and they end up being what? Like dogs that are chubby and like can't really run, get out of shape, are all clumsy, just want comfort and be indoors all the time.
And the environment catches up to you. You know, you're mentioning like you have children. I have some children as well. And I remember when they were really young, I'd watch them do certain movement patterns, and I was always like, oh my God, they move a million times better than me. Super mobile. Obviously, you know, they're not fully developed, and there's many reasons why they're able to do certain things, especially when they first come out. They are insanely mobile. But as a kid gets to be closer to like 10, 11 years old, you actually start to see some of that regression depending on their environment. And you start to see some stiffness develop. You start to see some differences in their gait. And you're like, man, what's happening here? But really what's happening is they're a byproduct of their environment, and they're probably mimicking mom or dad, or maybe both.
100%. Totally on point. And I've been observing this because, again, being almost in my mid-50s, and so I was born in 1971 back in France. So we don't have smartphones. We don't have, my TV was, it was like a black and white screen, no remote control. You had 2 channels, and they were not even broadcasting. Yes, all that. So we weren't stuck in front of screens all day. And luckily, I was not born and raised in a city, but in a small town with direct access to a lot of nature. We're talking about woods and hills and large boulders. And so not only I was permitted to go there, I was actually encouraged by my dad to go there. It was like, don't stay home, like don't stay in your room. As the sun is shining, go outside. Always. But it was also, anyways, a natural instinct. So not all kids were doing that back then, but most kids were. Today, the upbringing is completely different. So there is so much artificiality in every aspect of kids' lives, in the food they eat or drink, in the medications they are given, in the way they are born, in the example provided by their parents, who themselves are a product of those artificial environments and artificial behaviors. So movement-wise, there is very little. Because if you look at the way a human being can move in natural environments, the wide range of those movements, compared to what's the movement behavior of a typical modern human being from morning to evening. You wake up, you stand up, you walk a few steps, probably to a seat somewhere already where you're going to have coffee or some whatever, granola, whatever it is. Your whole environment is artificial. It's a building, it's square, flat walls, flat floors, stable, linear, predictable. What are the movement requirements? What are physical requirements to live in those environments? The ability to sit, stand, and walk a few steps. That's it. There's no variety of movement. There's no intensity of movement. There's also no variability of movement. So variety and variability, not exactly the same. Let's say, here I describe basically, standing up, not even from the floor, typically from an elevated surface where you sit. So sitting in one way on one surface. Standing up or sitting down, same way. And then walking, gait, same way. No variations of a terrain. Not a lot of frequency, typically. It means people can sit for hours. Then maybe they can stand for a long time and sit more. And walk just a few steps to their car. So the number of variations isn't there. but also the variability means how often you switch from one movement pattern to the next. That is also very
I just want
important.
to interrupt for just a second and say it's like really rare for your average person to probably get into a squat position that would represent them being like below parallel. You know, because when you're in your car, you're not that low unless the curb is there and you're trying to get in the passenger side or something like that. Your toilet's probably not that low. So the likelihood that you're exploring some of those lower ranges is probably really rare.
Completely rare. Luckily, when I was a kid, I played marbles, squatting, or kneeling, or half kneeling, or changing position all the time. And I played with little things. I played with like little mini soldiers and things like that. I played on the floor or on the ground. At home on the floor, especially in the winter when it was cold.
Crazy when you see a kid do that and their legs all like internally rotated
Completely.
and they're just like in some crazy position, not even thinking about it.
No, because they're following the program. They're following nature. Now you have to wonder how come that when they are a teenager, they've already lost a lot of that mobility. They may have developed postural issues like a rounded back, hunched shoulders, scoliosis. And it's not just the shape of their spine, it's also the range of motion, the stiffness is there, the lack of mobility, the lack of strength, the lack of all of that. And why is that? It's not supposed to be like that. And what's the remedy for that? You can think, stretching, yoga, or some strength and conditioning, whatever. And that's good. That's okay. But let's ask ourselves, what caused the loss? What caused the deficiency? It's the lack of the natural movement behavior, the continuity of it. So you are in those environments, at some point, artificial environments, you don't need those movement behaviors anymore. You don't need them. And so kids are giving screens. So they play video games. They go on social media. They look at their screens. It can be right there. It can be a few feet away. But then they sit. They sit in really bad positions, typically. Yeah. And in between long bouts of sitting with a bad position, which then becomes their by default position, in between that, there's still no variability, no diversity, no intensity, no frequency of all kinds of other movements. Now, if you were to take the same kids, take their screens away, and give them a playground, even an artificial playground, even made of plastic and metal and stuff, but they would find bars to hang from and climb from and balance on and jump on, then they would behave completely differently. What would be the impact on their physicality, on the health of their tissues, on their strength, their mobility, the pliability, the fascia, the nerves, the tendons, you name it, all of it. And what would be the impact on their nervous system, and what would be the impact on how they feel, how they behave, how they think? It would be night and day. And it would be the difference between kids today and kids like you still have like whatever, the Amishes, or kids who grew up in rural areas like in Africa, Asia, or Europe still, by the way, or even Northern America. Some kids are still mostly growing up that way. Mm-hmm. And it's almost they have two different species of human beings.
I want to add in on top of what you were saying there. What we've done is we've kind of adjusted our environment to serve our movement. We've talked about this on the show before. So like now, for example, around my work desk at home, there's some kettlebells. There's a sandbag next to me. I have gymnastics rings set up in my kitchen. Actually, in my living room, I have them set up on the ceiling to encourage me to hang off of them and do these things. Because as you were saying, it's like, typically years ago, it would just be a computer desk and I'd have to go somewhere to fuel movement. But now with it being in the environment, it just happens and it makes it easier to make this progress.
That is so on point, because what you've realized is that if you've got to wait the proper environment to do your specific movement practice, in between those sessions where you have taken yourself in the environment where you're supposed to do your movement practice or physical practice. In between that, you are in an environment that does not really facilitate.
Doesn't serve me.
Exactly. Now, look, bring in kids here, 4 years old, 6 years old, what are they going to do?
Find something to play with.
All right. So even if they don't, they know they should try to not break anything, but guaranteed they'll climb on that table, jump off of it. If it was possible, they would crawl through it. You know, they're going to start throwing and catching things. I see like some bars up there. They would try to hang and all, be like, hopefully we don't break anything, but they would laugh and try to do it anyways, and hoping they're not seen or they're not get scolded and stuff. All right. Mm-hmm. They still have a drive. But if you give them a movie to watch, or a computer or laptop or whatever it is, a tablet, and some video game, they'll just sit right there and just do that. So the environment is critical. And what you've realized, even as a grown-up, is that if you do some simple changes to your environment, the opportunities are right there. Mm-hmm. The opportunities for what? For movement behavior that is more diverse, more natural, practical, useful, and enjoyable. And you restore not only some of that variety and that variability, some of that intensity too, but most importantly, as importantly, you restore frequency.
Yes.
Frequency is so important. That's the thing, is that you don't want to have to wait for hours until finally, okay, it's 5 p.m. I'm going to the gym. Going to the gym is awesome. Gyms can be so much fun. It can be so rewarding. But you don't want to wait to do something. And also, you know that if you do some movement a few times, starting early in the morning even, by the time you hit the gym, you're ready. You not feel stiff all around. Your nervous system is more alert. You deliver better in the gym. You enhance your training at the gym also. So, but you avoid yourself the boredom of being in artificial environments where natural movement, expression, or behavior is supposed to not exist. And that's what is creating a huge amount of boredom and even depression in people. It's that lack of, it's like you prevent a natural behavior that is everything. It's vitality, it's freedom of movement. And not only that, but you're looking at screens or you're looking at walls. So basically you feel walled. It's like being in a jail, except you feel free, but you don't. Consciously, you're like, I'm free. But unconsciously, at another level of your psyche, you're like, I'm confined. I'm in a container. And not only I'm in a container, but within that container, I have to contain myself. I cannot move that way. No, because it's not the right place. It's not the right time. It's not the right whatever. Not the right program. Not the right protocol. You know, you wonder why people are bored and depressed. Well, start with that, you know, like go outside, go in nature, do some movement. It'll feel so much better already.
Yeah, you lose a lot of capacities, unfortunately. And you were mentioning a lot of things about the nervous system so far. And what you were really emphasizing to us, and Nsima and I've heard a lot of guests come on the show and talk about breathing. The great Kelly Starrett has taught us many great things about breathing and how important it is for movement. But you were really stressing that over and over again. Why is breathing so important to our movement?
So breathing is important to any aspect of life, since we're doing it 24/7. In movement, breathing inefficiently, I can explain what inefficiency is and what efficiency is. But most importantly, when you hold your breath, and that's the one like very typical way of becoming inefficient with your breathing, you hold your breath, you create tension. It's also an indication of tension. It's an indication that you feel out of your comfort zone performing that particular movement. So you're tensing and you're holding your breath. The same happens, in social relationships. When you feel unsettled, you feel upset, you may hold your breath. So it's a symptom of tension, but it's also a cause of tension. So why not just remove that problem altogether and maintain continuous breathing? When you swim, it's obvious that you gotta breathe. Okay, now it becomes not optional. It becomes okay. Technique is not just about speed. It's also about being streamlined in the water in a way that I can easily maintain my airways out of the water so that I can breathe. And even if you have your face down, but at some point, boom, you just move your neck and that's it. You inhale, you exhale in the water. The management of breathing is extremely important when you swim. And if you don't manage your breathing correctly, you will see an impact on your swimming performance extremely quickly. Don't you think that's just when you're swimming? Exactly the same happens when you're on land, except you will not notice it. But it's detrimental to your movement performance. So let's imagine you have a certain level of physical competency. What I call physical competency is how well you move, your movement skills, motor control. And you have a certain level of capacity. So energy systems, metabolic conditioning, strength and conditioning, and all that. And all of a sudden, you don't breathe well. Your performance is instantly decreased. So right there, if you've never paid attention to the way you breathe as you physically perform, that's one potentially untapped potential for higher performance just because you're going to improve your breathing. And what is improved breathing is the continuity of breathing, the regularity of breathing, nasal breathing, and diaphragmatic breathing. So it's deep. It's not just that at a superficial level. So there are a lot of variables to pay attention to when you want to learn power breathing, like efficient breathing. Treat it like a skill. You want to treat breathing like a skill. And in fact, in my teaching, I always start with breathing because it's not an add-on. It's not a plug-in. It's the foundation because you breathe before you move already. So whatever way you breathe, and if that breathing is inefficient, when you don't move, what do you think is going to happen when you do move? It's going to be magnified.
I want to ask you a question about nasal breathing, but before we actually go there, because we've had different people come onto the show and talk about it, there are some coaches who are like, especially there's some coaches I know that have worked with fighters, and they're like, it's not that important. There are other coaches who have come on and have talked about, yeah, it's great, it can calm you down, etc. But so people can like understand where you're coming from, can we first talk about some of the feats that you've done with the power of your breathing? Because I don't think people know some of the things you've done as far as breath holds and diving, etc., because of your breath control. So can we talk about that real quick and then go to some of the basics?
Yeah. It's actually, that's interesting because, well, what I've done is holding my breath in a static fashion, means without moving, not even diving, just face down in the water. Officially 7 minutes and 29 seconds, but in training I've done 8 minutes a few times, which I hope to do this year in front of a judge. Okay, so actually I'm not breathing.
Yeah.
I'm not breathing.
You're good at not breathing.
I'm good at not breathing. I'm better at not breathing.
You know, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, I think it's noteworthy is you're in great shape. Like you look incredible. Your body fat's super low. You have good muscle mass. But you said that like it's actually detrimental for you to put on more muscle for this breath holding stuff that you do.
Yeah, I could easily be 15, 20 pounds heavier in muscle mass if I wanted, if I trained for it. But I don't. And the reason is indeed muscles do consume energy. So they consume oxygen even at rest. It may not be noticeable too much if you don't practice breath holding. But when you do, even at a decrease of 10 seconds for me is dramatic. I don't want it. So, but it can be more than that. And when you look at actually all the elite static breath holding guys, they're way skinnier than me, and they have no muscle. It's crazy. Like a cyclist, except cyclists at least they have those
legs.
match. Their arms, their upper body look like they're teenagers that never do any push up and pull up.
Yeah.
But their legs are like nice. Yeah. I mean, they're not bulky, but you can tell they're trained. Mm-hmm. Okay, static breath holding guys, the whole body is like the cyclist style, but like the legs too. Okay, unless they also do other forms of breath holding disciplines that are dynamic, like swimming for distance in swimming pools or diving. In that case, believe it or not, but higher level of strength and conditioning is beneficial. Like, why? Because it's always like that. It's about energy systems. It's about oxygenation, tissue oxygenation, very important. So it's about red blood cells count. It's not just counts, like blood quality, blood quantity, both. You need both blood quantity and blood quality. So that's trainable, and you don't train that just by holding your breath. You also train that by doing physical exercise like running, intensity, HIIT type of stuff, some lifting, all of that. Except you cannot afford to become bulky or overly bulky if you want to perform at the elite level. So now in relation to breathing, it's still completely related, and it has to do with the diaphragm. Because when you hold your breath, you don't move at all. So, and you don't move at all for minutes. You don't want to move physically. You don't want to move mentally. You don't want to move emotionally. Because movement, what is movement? It's agitation. That's what it is. It doesn't matter that it's physical, mental, emotional. It's agitation. So when you agitate, it's obviously energy expenditure. If you're going to expend your energy, as in spending it, not expanding it, you're not going to hold your breath as long as you potentially could. So you want to avoid any agitation. Movement can be gesticulation as a form of agitation. You can structure it and make it highly technical. So think martial artist, violinist, whatever it is, a skill of the precision of your movement mastery. It's not gesticulation, obviously. It's structured, it's organized, highly technical. But gesticulation means you just move and agitate. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your energy. All right, so the only thing that's going to move when you hold your breath a long time, ultimately, are your respiratory muscles. Why? Because the autonomic nervous system disagrees with your prefrontal cortex. Your conscious mind says, I'm holding my breath longer than that. The autonomic nervous system is like, hello, I know you're the big honcho and all, but I'm here, I'm your guardian angel, I'm your watchdog. I know you're trying to do something completely stupid, but you're going to kill us all in there if you keep doing that. So I'm agitating you. I'm making you feel very unpleasant. I'm sending you all the signals so you're going to change your decision of committing to that breath hold. Mm-hmm. And basically, it tries to do what it does, which is to regulate you when you're busy doing all the things you want to do in your life. Watch a show, spend time with your children, whatever it is. While you're doing that, your metabolism doesn't stop, your digestion doesn't stop, your hormonal balancing, everything. Homeostasis. You keep regulating. So even though you're busy holding your breath, your autonomic nervous system says, you know what, I'm going to regulate you because I don't understand. The autonomic nervous system does not understand the rationality of what you're doing. And its job is not to understand your mind. is to do what's necessary to keep you alive. So there's a point where it needs to make you breathe again. Okay, so now the diaphragm wants to move and you start to have spasms and you start even like your upper respiratory muscles want to be a part of that too. Okay, that's going to cost you energy. So you need the intention, the mental intention and attention to keep that extremely low intensity. So stillness first. When stillness is not possible, it's softness and slowness. Because if it goes too fast and too hard, there's consumption of oxygen. It's going to reduce your performance. So that has to do with both mental, conscious, and autonomic control of breathing. But the respiratory muscles are muscles. So they are trainable in strength and power and in stamina the same way any other muscle is. So the stronger a diaphragm and your upper respiratory muscles, the more power they have, the more endurance they have, the less the metabolic cost of breathing, even if you don't. So that's the paradox. You're not actually breathing because you're not opening your airways, so there's no gas exchange. But you are attempting to breathe, and that has a cost. So if you can make your breathing stronger, then you make your breath holding stronger too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you think about, I don't know, let's say you're at the airport and the escalator's broken or whatever, the elevator, a lot of people, might have a hard time kind of lugging their luggage up a few flights of stairs, If you could do that and it was a breeze to you, you could do it nasal breathing. You're not going to sweat. You're just going to grab your 40-pound thing of luggage or however much it weighs, and you're just going to walk right up there. But someone who's unfit, their mouth's going to be open. They might even start to perspire, like they might be hot. They're gonna have to expend a lot more energy than another person. And just in general, that person is less efficient with movement. Maybe not across the board everywhere on everything, but when it comes to maybe like certain levels of fitness, that person is more unfit.
Yes.
And if you pay attention and you're like even watching TV, our buddy Graham Tuttle, shout out to him. Sometimes he can be a little annoying. And we were watching a movie at my house, and we were watching you're watching a comic movie, like Avengers or something. I can't remember what it was. And he's like, look at all these characters. He's like, they're all mouth breathing. But mouth breathing and those kinds of things are done by actors to show stress, to show what's going on in the environment. If the actor was only nasal breathing, you would just think they had no emotion.
Remember when you did photo shoots? Like you would
That's a very good
you'd
point.
do squatting like, what I mean?
Yeah, you got to, or The Rock, right? The videos of The Rock lifting, like The Rock probably doesn't lift like that all the time.
Yeah.
It's to, show that he's like going hard, right? He's going for it.
Completely. Yeah, they exaggerate, they exacerbate what is innately, intuitively known by anyone, by everyone. Okay, symptoms of stress. And breathing is a major symptom of stress when it's out of whack. Here's the thing is breathing or breath work is everywhere. People talk about it, but few people actually realize its power enough to implement it in their daily life or as part of their physical performance or athletic regimen. Because, for instance, if I say breath work, what do you think about?
Think about somebody doing some breath work on the ground, maybe trying to like relax or something like that.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, what I think about is like when I do like certain exercises, when I'm working on cardio, right? I have certain goals where I don't want my heart rate to get as high. So like I purposefully breathe through my nose. I keep my heart rate at a certain place to train my ability to maintain that. We've learned this from different people, but when you say breath work, that's what I think about. I think about, because it also, there's also, I don't think it's necessarily bad if you have to open your mouth to breathe if you get to that intensity, but you shouldn't always be there.
Completely.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
similar to Nsima where, if I could, let's just say, keep my heart rate at like 140 and be on the assault bike and produce, I don't know, maybe let's just say like 350 or 400 watts, keep my heart rate in that zone and just continue with doing that and to try to nasal breathe through the whole thing without it being like too stressful. I mean, sometimes I got to kind of notch it back down a little bit, but that's sort of the goal. And the goal for me sometimes is to get more work in while still staying in that nasal breathing and still staying in that calm state. So that's a lot of the stuff that I work on. And then also, I guess there's like simple things like box breathing.
Yeah.
4 in, hold it for 4, or 4 out, hold it for 4 type thing.
So you're right, and you're right. Those are potential applications of breath work. Today, when people say breath work, they think mostly doing hyperventilation.
Yeah.
Breathing hard.
Like Wim Hof stuff?
Through the mouth. Thinking it's going to cure all their ailments, physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual. It won't. But there is much, much more to it. This being said, there are countless of potential breathwork exercise. So breathing exercise is countless. So which one should you do? How often should you do them and why? That's a lot of knowledge. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, being drawn to your breath seems to be so powerful. That distraction alone makes it hard to figure out what style of breath work may be effective, because I've done Wim Hof stuff before and I found it to be really effective, but I'm not sure if it's the technique. Maybe it's what I'm applying it to. Like I've done it, we've done it before, like getting into like a cold plunge and stuff like that. I've also utilized it to assist me to hold my breath longer. You hyperventilate. I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is a strategy often used by divers. I think they blow a lot of air in and out before they...
Mark, I'm afraid I'm going to have to correct you because you are wrong on this.
Great. I love that.
Exactly. So here's why.
I want to learn.
So I'm friend with elite freedivers. You obviously can imagine that holding their breath is extremely important to them. That's the whole foundation of the sport. By the way, there are different disciplines in that sport. It's just like running, okay? Running, you can do sprinting. You can do trail running. You can do ultra trail. You can do marathon, half marathon. You can do hurdles. You can do plenty of things. So freediving is basically breath holding. And then you can also do different things with that. So in my case, my specialty is holding my breath, not moving, complete composure. It's like I treat it like a meditation. Mm-hmm. Others dive. So now you have the pressure, intense pressure from the ocean, from all the water that's above you, increases the pressure on your body. Others go horizontally for distance. Anyways, I'm friend with world record holders and world champions in different freediving disciplines. Do you know how many do hyperventilation?
Zero. But
do you know how many do like the Wim Hof exercise, which is one? It's not a method with a variety of exercises. We're talking about one single exercise. You do hyperventilation, you exhale, you hold your breath. One exercise. Do you know how many use that exercise before they dive? Zero. And not only they don't use it because it has no advantage, they actually avoid it because it can be a problem.
Is it dangerous?
But also does it...
Yes,
does
it's
it,
potentially dangerous.
Does it potentially help you to be able to hold your breath a little bit longer? Or no, not at all? It doesn't do shit?
Yes, if you're a beginner. No, if you're advanced.
Okay.
Yes, if you're a beginner, because it does dump CO2, and CO2 is not the only one of the reasons why the urge to breathe is triggered. There are other reasons. Actually, the main reasons are psychological. You just don't want, you're afraid of it. But there's also, the main reason is actually, it's called respiratory rhythm. It's in the respiratory centers of the brainstem and other parts of the brain. There are, breathing oxygen supply is so important. You don't have oxygen, you die very quickly. So there are plenty of protective systems in place to make you breathe, not just biomechanically, but also physiologically. So we're talking about cellular respiration. Respiration means breathing. So you have ventilation, that's the biomechanical part of breathing. Then you have the respiration that happens at a cellular level. That's also very important. Okay. So the respiratory rhythm is how you breathe right now by default. And we all have a certain respiratory rhythm. Means if you calculate how many breaths you take per minute, you'll have what's called a respiratory rate. It can be 6, it can be 4, it can be 30. And that changes a lot of things.
And what should it be, do you think, for just like a normal, healthy person? Or let's just say like an athlete, I guess.
So if you are healthy, if you're at rest, it's in the morning, just wake up. Your metabolism is still relatively slow. Your nervous system is well rested. It can be, I mean, if you're trained and everything, it can be like four breath cycles per minute. So a breath cycle is 1 inhale, 1 exhale. If your immune system is down, you're fighting some infection, you didn't sleep enough, you're upset, you're unhealthy, you never see the sunlight, you never move, all of that. Guaranteed your ventilatory system, your ventilation, biomechanically is weak. Okay. You have weak respiratory muscles. You have a stiff rib cage. You have small lungs because you never expand them. So they're stiff and small and weak. Okay. So you're physiologically in a deficit there. But if you look inside at the cellular level, it's going to be something similar. Just at a cellular level means that your blood vessels are narrow, they're stiff. Your blood, everything is viscous. Your blood quantity is not high. Okay, so everything that has to do with basically tissue oxygenation is low. Now you're struggling to breathe. You breathe shallow means that you need many more breaths to make the same level of oxygen circulate in your body. And because you're breathing faster, okay, not that fast, but still faster. You know what happens when you're stressed out. When you're upset, you breathe faster. It's an indication of stress. So now, even if you're not in a stressful situation, but by default, your default breathing pattern is stressed out and stressful, and you're in that perpetual, vicious loop. That's definitely a big problem. So, yeah. So doing hyperventilation is going to buy you artificially. It's a very cheap trick, basically. Okay. I don't call that a technique. Certainly don't call that a method. The method, you would imagine at least like multiple breathing exercises with some principles, some way of customizing and making the practice individual and progressive and targeting different things. If you have one single exercise that basically a 4-year-old can teach you by just showing you like that and hold your breath, I don't call that a technique. I don't call that a method. I call that a drill. So unexperienced spearfishers who do that might just kill themselves by doing that. It has happened actually many times, and actually even many practitioners of the Wim Hof method, and I know it's unpopular to say, have died.
Passed out in the water, right?
Passed out in the water. Nobody to watch them. Mm-hmm. They were not personally aware of the risk. Because
and fair warning, he does warn people, don't do this in water. He says he does it in water, but he tells people not to, and then they do. So
true. It's at least, I mean, it has become something that he does.
Yeah.
Or that his team does. It was not necessarily there early on, but yeah, some people may do it. And one of the reasons is because that exercise, that's one exercise, has become so popular that you may learn it from just somebody on YouTube or Instagram that shows you how to do it, and you think you're doing the Wim Hof method, but basically you're doing that exercise that has the ability to give you what's called a shallow surface blackout, especially if you also swim underwater, not just hold your breath, not moving, but swim underwater. And you're going to start to struggle, you're going to start to push, and there's going to be a phase where you feel amazing. That's the very dangerous phase. It's when all the elite free divers, they know that it feels like all of a sudden you feel, wow, I'm not struggling anymore. Let's keep going. I'm going to break my record. That's when you have somebody at the surface that goes like, wakey, wakey. They blow on their face to trigger the trigeminal nerve, telling your nervous system your face is not immersed in the water, it is safe to breathe. Mm-hmm. But they basically black out. Now, if you black out and you're alone, well, so you have a clenching reflex where you go like this to close the airway so you don't breathe inside the water. But you're unconscious, mm-hmm. You black out. If nobody pulls you out of the water and resuscitate you, in a desperate attempt to survive, there will be a point where inside the water, you'll go like this. Oh. That's when your lungs get full of air, of water, and that's when you drown right away, and then that's it, you're gone. Oof. So, all the people who've been found in the water drowned, when all they did, they were not like caught by like big waves on a surf spot or something. They just were swimming in the water, pushing themselves, doing spearfishing, waiting a little too long because now you get a fish and you really want the fish and you're like, okay, a little longer. And then you try to reach the surface and that's it. You're in the red zone already. Boom, you black out. Nobody's there to see you. You're a goner. So if you do hyperventilation, you make the risk of experiencing a shallow water blackout much higher. So don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And there are other ways. If what you want is to train your ability to hold your breath a long time, you do not need hyperventilation. You do not need a trick. It's a little like if you were to say, you know what, I'm training cold exposure with a 5 mil wetsuit on. It's like, how about you also stay in your jacuzzi and put the jacuzzi in the cold ocean, hoping for some results, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're training cold exposure, you go half naked. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are training breath holding and you want to hold your breath a long time. It is not a physiological trick like hyperventilation that's going to help you. It's the mindset. It's the meditation. That's the number one aspect that you want to address in increasing your performance to hold your breath. It's not a physiological adaptation. That comes later. My students, they double, triple, quadruple. Sometimes I've seen people multiply by 6 their original breath holding time, means before instruction, mm-hmm. just mostly based on the way they have recalibrated both their conscious mind about the experience of breath holding and their autonomic nervous system to gain the composure that enables them to acknowledge the unpleasantness and stay cool about it, stay composed.
All right, Mark, you're getting leaner and leaner, but you always enjoy the food you're eating. So how you doing it?
I got a secret, man. It's called Good Life Protein.
Okay, tell me about that.
I've been doing some Good Life Protein. You know, we've been talking on the show for a really long time of certified Piedmontese beef, mm-hmm. and you can get that under the umbrella of Good Life Proteins, which also has chicken breast, chicken thighs, sausage, shrimp, scallops, all kinds of different fish, salmon, tilapia. The website has nearly any kind of meat that you can think of. Lamb is another one that comes to mind. And so I've been utilizing and kind of using some different strategy, kind of depending on the way that I'm eating. So if I'm doing a keto diet, I'll eat more fat, and that's where I might get the sausage, and I might get their 80-20 grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef. I might get bacon. And there's other days where I kind of do a little bit more bodybuilder style, where the fat is, might be like 40 grams or something like that. And then I'll have some of the leaner cuts of the certified Piedmontese beef.
This is one of the reasons why neither of us find it hard to stay in shape, because we're always enjoying the food we're eating. And protein, you talk about protein, leverage it all the time. It's satiating and helps you feel full.
I look forward to every meal, and I can surf and turf, I could cook up some, chicken thighs or something like that and have some shrimp with it, or I could have some steak. I would say, the steak, it keeps going back and forth for me on my favorites. So it's hard for me to lock one down, but I really love the bavette steaks.
Yeah.
And then I also love the ribeyes as well.
You can't go wrong with the ribeyes. So guys, if you guys want to get your hands on some really good meat, you can head to goodlifeproteins.com and use code POWER for 20% off any purchases made on the website, or you can use code POWERPROJECT to get an extra 5% off if you subscribe and save to any meats that are a recurring purchase.
This is the best meat in the world. I've seen some of these documentaries and stuff that have been on like Netflix and stuff. And Nsima, have you seen any of these with the free divers and stuff like that?
I haven't watched any, no.
Oh, it's absolutely insane. Maybe you can fill us in, because I don't know all the different stuff about the people that are assisting and helping them, because they were saying like there was, I think, depths that, I think I got that right. There's depths that people are going to that someone can't wear a tank for, so they can't like have oxygen to assist the person, because I think the oxygen tank will like blow up or something. I just found the whole documentary. I wish I could remember the name of it, but there was people passing out and nearly dying, and doing all kinds of, interesting stuff. But like, how come the, how far down are they going and stuff like that?
So, they can go as well. The world record for a discipline that does not exist anymore, that was the no limit. So you would be assisted on the way down and on the way up. So you would have a weight that was pulling you down very quickly. So you didn't have to do an effort. You would just hang to it, going down very fast. And then you would have also like an inflatable air thing that would make you move back up fast. Because you're not breathing through a tank, you have a natural adaptation of the body to the pressure. That means you do not need to have decompression stages like in scuba diving. In scuba diving, if you dive deep and you go back up too fast, you can kill yourself. You can become paralyzed for life. You need to go in a hyperbaric chamber.
Be very careful about the different pressure as you go down further and further. Okay.
Yeah. So now it's very, very rare in free diving, but you can have deep blackout. You can maybe 30 meters deep. So you're on your way back up. Something, even super trained athlete like them, you may have something is happening that's out of your control, where you black out early because, 30 meters, it's basically a matter of seconds before you reach the surface, swimming. But that amount of time and that amount of oxygen that you need could be missing because of something is happening in your physiology or in your nervous system that makes you unable to reach the surface. Often the blackouts happen at just below the surface or right as you emerge. So they manage to emerge, but that's the transition time where the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for your consciousness, for you being conscious, start to lack so much oxygen that the nervous system has to make a decision of shifting to unconsciousness to survive. So it goes into deeper areas of the brain because the brain does not oxygenate everywhere the same at the same time. It's just like muscles. If you do calf raises, you don't get bulgy biceps and vice versa. Why? Because where the energy expenditure goes. So the brain is the same. So now you're going to protect the autonomic nervous system and the limbic brain. That's where the oxygen is going to go. So now you're falling unconscious. You're going limp because consciousness, or even the ability to maintain yourself in a given position, that's a lot of energy. So all of a sudden you go limp. So the transition to that is called a samba or LMC, loss of motor control. You start to go like this. You start to shake. And either you recover from that or you pass out, dip in the water. And so, but you have, it's a very safe sport, actually. It's a very safe sport because there has been accidents in the past because people were pushing their limits so much, but that now they've really nailed the safety protocols. So you were talking about the guys, like the scuba divers. They are wading low where the free divers cannot go or could go, but they would have to come back up. They could not be waiting there. But the scuba divers can, and if they're there and something happens there, they still have the ability to go back up and push the diver up, but without themselves reaching the surface.
And they probably couldn't give them oxygen even if they wanted to.
No.
It's probably dangerous, right?
Completely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes. Plus the person is unconscious.
It was crazy to watch this because like they're figuring out all this shit like over the last 10 years or so. It seems like it's pretty crazy.
You cannot revive it once you black out. You cannot revive the person inside the water because the face basically does not know the difference between water or another liquid. It cannot say that's water. If you look with your eyes, you can say that's water, but the face, the skin does not know. The nervous system doesn't know. So what it knows is a difference in pressure and in temperature. Yeah. So when the difference of temperature and pressure is everywhere on your face, that informs your nervous system, face immersed, gas exchange not possible. Okay, so until your face is placed in a position where it has contact with the air, and there's that thing called the blow talk where you blow on people's eyelids. Why? Because the trigeminal nerve goes there and all these areas.
Crazy. It's like we're a computer.
And then you wake up. So it's more efficient than say gently slapping the person or calling their name. Just in 90% of the cases, the person wakes up quickly. All right, and so then you have the other safety divers who are typically at around 30 meters, and 20 meters, 10 meters, and they are here to push you back up if you lose consciousness before the surface. So those are the safety protocols. Now, what I want to say is that you do not need to be a free diver to hugely benefit from the practice of breath holding, both from a physiological standpoint and from a psychological, mental, emotional standpoint. You can tremendously benefit by practicing at home in a complete safe way. But hyperventilation is not it. Because in hyperventilation, you're using, again, a physiological trick that does not really teach you the composure and the mental the mindset aspect that you need to hold your breath a long time.
Is there some kind of breath work we can try right now?
Absolutely.
And actually, quick question about hyperventilation. Would one of the reasons why you would fare away from hyperventilation be partially because it's unsafe, but also because it kind of moves you into a sympathetic state? Like it riles you up versus helping you to calm down into the experience?
Yes, and typically the rationale for doing that is to say, well, if you are going to agitate yourself first, then you can better relax. Mm-hmm. Is it debatable? It's just like, strength and conditioning, you have like different schools and they argue, no, that's not the way to train strength. And there are different protocols. And if you do this, it's better. And okay. My take on this. Relaxation is a skill. anyone who's listening to this show knows that they have an innate ability, how convenient, to make themselves upset just like that. Oh, I'm so pissed about that, blah, 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 blah. Right. Up yourself. It takes a millisecond. If you choose to, you don't even need a reason. People will make up reasons so that they have a justification to behave like that. We all know these people. We all have some of these people, hopefully not in our life anymore, because they're really annoying. But it may happen to any of us, to me, to you, to anybody. Be like, you know what? It's going to feel great to be upset right now. Just do it. Okay. Now, do you know how many people dream that they could relax deeply on command?
Yeah.
And they can't.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why is it that life has granted you the gift of supreme, instant, high-level intensity agitation for no reason if you choose to? The only reason is that you choose to. But has denied to you the privilege of being able to no hyperventilation needed, just like a switch, an invisible internal switch where you just go like down, slow, still. It's a skill. So we don't see agitation as a skill. We don't see being upset, angry, agitated as a skill. Why? Because typically that's something that we wish we weren't doing. Mm-hmm. And it's even if nobody's around.
It makes sense. Like even something like behavior management is for that kind of behavior.
Completely. Like anger, stuff like programs. You're in a plane, somebody annoys you, you end up like having to do the program because you lose your marbles. But even if nobody is looking, you have found yourself getting mad in the car, driving. Something happened, you spilled the coffee on yourself, whatever it is, you can get mad. And you decide that it's justified. And only you decide that it makes you feel good. It's a good energy. But if you do that too often, you're like, oh my God, like it's a little overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So being agitated, being upset is a natural ability. It's just like the ability to see things in a positive way or a negative way. Okay, so you can, there are reasons why you should be able to agitate yourself very quickly. That can get out of a tight spot. That can be the right response depending on the context. It can be the right strategy. The problem is that if that's your only strategy to respond to any situation of life, and the composure part, the coolness part is not an option for you because you do not possess, you're not equipped with it. So how do you train that? So that's what BreathHoldWork can do for you. That's what also breathing can do for you. But beyond breathing, there's the no breath. And here's the difference. If you aren't calm or quiet and you overthink, you think all the time, you're agitated, you're worried, you're concerned, you have frustrations, whatever. If you stay in that state long enough, you really want out. So you're going to try to numb yourself. Maybe you're going to take, maybe some people are going to take drugs. Some are official drugs, so Valium, stuff like that. Okay. A glass of wine. Some are going to smoke something. Some are going to take a chamomile tea. Okay. Those are exogenous. So you take the molecules from the outside, alters your brain, alters your biochemistry, boom, you feel relaxed. That's okay. You can take a hot bath. You can have a massage. That's cool. It's still external. That's still not something that you do on command because you choose to. Basically, it's not a skill. You don't have a skill. It is said that when you do breathwork is the gateway to the mind, to consciousness and all that, and that's true. But also that's the only way you can quiet your mind. So now explain to me how I can hold my breath for a long time while feeling deeply, deeply, deeply relaxed. not thinking at all or very little. And when I do think, it's very specific. It supports my relaxation. It supports my patience. It supports my confidence. It supports my willpower. Okay. Typically, when you want to relax the mind, you're going to do slow breathing. So you take away any source of stress. You dim the light, no bright light, silence or cool ambient music, a little bell, maybe you have a mala, maybe you burn some incense, whatever it is that you believe creates an environment of quietness, of tranquility. That's a good start. Then you start breathing slowly. It's a good start too. So you avoid any stressors. And then you hope that on top of that, your mind, the mind that you are, will alter itself well enough in order to quiet itself. Okay. Now you hold your breath. Everybody knows what it does. It stresses you out. Not only stresses you out, but the stress keeps going up and up and up and up. And you cannot use slow breathing to soothe yourself and to regulate yourself, which is called down regulation. So you explained to me how you can meditate through that and how you can stay composed and completely relaxed physically, emotionally, and mentally. And the answer is, it is not the slow breathing. It is pure intention. That's what it is. Pure intention. And when I say pure intention, that means that it's not just the intention that you declare, oh, I will stay calm no matter what. And 2 minutes later, no, you are like struggling in your mind. It means, how do you prolong that intention? Through attention. So it's deep, deep, deep focus, a complete commitment to not depart from that patience, from that confidence. All these qualities that make you a person who is in this moment relaxed through a decision, intention, an intention that's prolonged, and prolonged for as long as it is necessary to prolong it. All right. So you can do all of that without the breath work by doing breath, hold, work. You basically create an opportunity to, by inducing a stress that does not exist, that doesn't need to exist. You could just breathe and you're cool. Mm-hmm. Fine. Why would you create that stress? Not because you want to suffer for no reason, but because you want to create a stress that you then choose how you respond to. How you handle it is on you. You can't blame the world. You can't say, hey, sorry, baby, I'm a little edgy. It's because the traffic and work and my coworkers. What? No. How you respond is entirely on you. So if you become impatient, if you say, I said I would commit to 1 minute and after 10 seconds you already want to quit, you have no commitment, you find excuses, you lose confidence in yourself, so many things can happen in the mind that are typically what? Negative. Mm-hmm. It's like lead. And if you go a little alchemical with your own psyche, you want to turn that lead into gold. So the antidote to impatience is what? Patience. The antidote to lack of confidence or fear is what? Trust. Also called faith. And you get to practice those qualities. Because relaxation is an action before it is a state. You're not all of a sudden finding yourself in a state of deep relaxation just like that. You need to make it happen. So that is something you need to do to choose and apply yourself to become that relaxation. Then you are that relaxation, means you are in the state. You experience the state of relaxation. That's why it is a skill. when you decide that it's something that you become able to create for yourself. So you learn to master your inner experience. Agitation is a no-brainer. Anybody can do that anytime. Relaxation and composure and resiliency. Now, that is what most people need. If you treat it like a skill, you will become very good at just like any other practice, any other skill. And that's what I teach.
That's incredible. I think there's a lot of application in what you're saying. And I think what it kind of reminds me of is when somebody has like something like anxiety, like they're not really sure where it comes from sometimes. But a lot of times, you know, if you start to think about your circumstances and your subconscious and so on, it seems like your consciousness and your subconscious need to be aligned for you to really get into like a really relaxed state. If there's something pecking at you in the background that you're kind of like only halfway aware of, you haven't really drawn much focus or attention to it yet, that's probably something that's kind of keeping you, uptight. And I think that it makes sense to be uptight because you have something going on in your life that you're viewing as being problematic and you haven't addressed it yet.
Completely. And, you know, you can spend your whole life wondering why you are a certain way. What explains why you behave a certain way, why you are a certain way, why you are not a certain way that you desire. And you can explain that through different angles, but typically people will spend years, decades, or their whole lifetime thinking about the same problems in the same way with no change. Because explanations are more or less objective, but even when they are, an explanation is not a solution. In some cases, it can be an epiphany. You'll be like, oh, I get it now. That's that moment where my dad told me that. And from there, you know, I've lost confidence in myself. Or the opposite. My dad told me that, and then I felt empowered and it was amazing. But typically, people are not worried about everything that went well in their life. That's not this is like, yeah, my mom was super loving, or this happened and was amazing. No, you think about, yeah, poor me, because that happened and that happened, that happened. And sometimes, and I'm not making fun of anything or anyone, because suffering is real. And you would be hard-pressed showing me anywhere, anyone that just didn't go through suffering. Suffering is real, and suffering sucks, but you're not going anywhere spiritually. I'm using the word spiritually. But you could say, hey, you know what? If you're a little on the fence with the word spiritual, just say psychological. It's the same. It's exactly the same. Okay, not spiritually. Psychologically. That's more rational. It's more like we're not getting into like whatever, like some woo space. Okay. So psychologically, everyone wants to feel good. And when we don't, we're thinking about why. So we don't complain, we don't whine about everything that's all right with ourselves, that we do good, that we feel good about. We complain about what we're still not reconciled about, what still bothers us, what still hurt us, we're still not over it. Even when we say, I'm over it. Are you? Well, why do you need to specify that you're over what you say you're over with? Clearly you're not. Because if you were, you would not even think about it. You would not even mention it. Okay? It's present in your mind because it has an impact on it. It's a load. It's a burden. It's something that bothers you. And as long as it does, it's like a shackle. It's an energetic load. It's something that you need to cleanse your psyche, your brain, whatever, your energetic self, your body from. Because as long as you don't do that, it will haunt you in some way. It's like energy leak. It's an energy vampire. It takes energy away from you. Okay? And that's the meaning of forgiveness, by the way. Forgive. It's to let go. And something that you don't necessarily do for others or for the person or the people who hurt you. Something you do for yourself, because as long as you resent who experiences the resentment? Not the person you are a victim of, but yourself. So you're inflicting yourself psychological element, emotional element, spiritual element that you trigger, that you justify because there are reasons in the past. But how long are they going to affect you? That's a decision you need to make. The fastest you can understand, okay, I went through this and that's my deck of cards. That's it. That's what happened to me. Now, how do I turn that lead into gold? What did those events, what were they supposed to teach me? What's the potential for me to grow from that, out of it? Okay, so in the BreathHoldWork practice, which is like a meditation, you will have moments of frustration. You may have frustration. You may have impatience. You may have doubt. You may have a feeling of, I want to go a little further, 10 seconds every time it's too hard. I'm not worthy. I'm not strong, whatever it is. Okay. What are you doing? You're not practicing breath holding in truth. You're practicing you. You're practicing your mind. You're practicing your heart. You're practicing your spirit. That's how you practice it. How do you ever practice your mind, your spirit, and your heart? Either through every situation of your life, the way you treat yourself to begin with, the way you treat others, including people you don't know. That's training. That's practice. You can be gracious. You can be decent. You can be honorable, or you can not give a F. Okay? What kind of person do you want to be? How do you train yourself to be? What's your code of conduct? Do you have any morality? Okay. Because when you treat others bad, you treat yourself bad. It's something that happens within you right away. It's not instant gratification. It's instant harming yourself, basically. Okay. Now, in life, we go through a diversity of context, environment, situations, relation. It's very dynamic. It fluctuates. You can't always be just, I'm so relaxed. No, you need, again, to agitate yourself in a structured way, organized way to get what you want out of life. But because of that, because it's so dynamic and because we're so absorbed that everything that happens around us, we rarely take the time to really feel and reflect on how we behave from within and how we feel within. And that's the blind spot. And this is as important, if not more important, than the way you look or the way you move and the way you perform in the gym. Because that is going to affect every single aspect of your life. It already has, and it will continue. So when you hold your breath and you start to feel the stress, you create an opportunity to also create the response to it. And you can decide, I'll be gracious through that stress. I will be patient. I am patient now. Patience, confidence, etc., etc. So the mind that you are practices itself. Why would you practice anything? You practice a lift. Why? I want to become better at it. Sprint. I want to become better at it. Anything you practice, intention of growth, personal development through the body, through the mind, emotional intelligence, whatever that is. We're multidimensional. As Oscar Wilde said, we contain multitudes, which is amazing because we're not monodimensional. But everything can be improved. So if we can improve the way we stand, we can improve the way we lift, we can improve the way we breathe. We can improve the way we don't breathe, we can improve the way we think, and we can literally improve the way we feel. Okay? When you ask people if they meditate, they typically say no. If you ask people, did you ever try meditation? Everybody typically says yes. So why is it that they don't keep meditating? It's either because it's useless, it brings nothing on the table, there's no gain to it, or they say, I can't do it, it's too hard for me. So, okay. So either most people suck at meditation or meditation sucks or the way it's taught sucks, or a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because what is meditation? Is you take a break from your consciousness interacting with the whole world. So instead of being absorbed with everything you got to do, everything you got to see, everything you got to manage, you flip the mirror, you look at yourself. Everybody looks at themselves in the mirror every day. But what mind looks at itself every day in what kind of mirror? And why would you do that? Why do you look at yourself in the mirror every day? Because you want to be presentable. You want to make sure you don't look like shit. Okay? How about you would do that for the mind? It's possible. Not only it's possible, but it's recommended highly. It's part of it's a form of hygiene. It's a form of, and you can make it a form of mastery, of being more conscious of how you feel, how you think. So you need to stop looking outward. You look inward, but just the observation. Because people think too much. Not only think too much, means too fast and nonstop. That's a real problem. But they also think very negatively, which is not just the negativity of the thoughts. It's also how they feel, how they make them feel. So there's an emotional load attached to the negativity of the thoughts. How do you fix that? Okay, so the regulation of the breath, then the regulation through the no breath, then the regulation of the thinking and the regulation of the emotion is all possible and can be learned and can be acquired. And then if you do that frequently enough, you recalibrate who you are, not externally, because you can't change your hair, you can't change your clothes, you can't change all of that. How do you change the inside? How you think, how you respond, how you react, how you desire, how you anticipate, how you believe, how you think and feel. It's possible, but you need some tools.
I will never go to a doctor ever again about my general health. All they want to do is put you on pills.
Really well said there by Dana White. Couldn't agree with him more. A lot of us are just trying to get jacked and tan. A lot of us just want to look good, feel good. And a lot of the symptoms that we might acquire as we get older, some of the things that we might have, high cholesterol or these various things, it's amazing to have somebody looking at your blood work as you're going through the process, as you're trying to become a better athlete, somebody that knows what they're doing. They can look at your cholesterol. They can look at the various markers that you have, and they can kind of see where you're at, and they can help guide you through that.
And there's a few aspects too where it's like, yes, I mean, no shade to doctors, but a lot of times they do want to just stick you on medication. A lot of times there is supplementation that can help with this. At Merrick Health, these patient care coordinators are going to also look at the way you're living your lifestyle, because there's a lot of things you might be doing that if you just adjust that, boom, you could be at the right levels, including working with your testosterone.
And there's so many people that I know that are looking for, they're like, hey, should I do that? They're very curious. And they think that testosterone is going to all of a sudden kind of turn them into the Hulk. But that's not really what happens. It can be something that can be really great for your health, because you can just basically live your life a little stronger, just like you were maybe in your 20s and 30s.
And this is the last thing to keep in mind, guys. When you get your blood work done at a hospital, they're just looking at like these minimum levels. At Merrick Health, they try to bring you up to ideal levels for everything you're working with. Whereas if you go into a hospital and you have 300 nanograms per deciliter of test, you're good, bro, even though you're probably feeling like shit. At Merrick Health, they're going to try to figure out what things you can do in terms of your lifestyle. And if you're a candidate, potentially TRT. So these are things to pay attention to get you to your best self.
And what I love about it is a little bit of the back and forth that you get with the patient care coordinator. They're dissecting your blood work. It's not like you just get this email back and it's just like, hey, try these 5 things. Somebody's actually on the phone with you, going over every step and what you should do. Sometimes it's supplementation, sometimes it's TRT, and sometimes it's simply just some lifestyle habit changes.
All right, guys, if you want to get your blood work checked and also get professional help from people who are going to be able to get you towards your best levels, head to merrickhealth.com and use code POWERPROJECT for 10% off any panel of your choice. So I'm curious about this because we'll probably come back to the breath holds. But in your mind, what is the importance of nasal breathing with this? Because, we went down the rabbit hole of the diving of breath holds, which we'll probably come back to. But when it comes to nasal breathing, some people think it's important. Some people that have even listened to this show think that it's a gimmick and it's not that important, right? So why do you think one should learn how to do this when relaxing, do this when sleeping, maybe in aspects of exercise, learn how to master this? Why is it important?
Okay. You can survive breathing through the mouth. Okay. But there are huge issues with that because the mouth is there for you to eat. That's what it does. Also for speech. Now, the idea that you could inhale and exhale systematically through the mouth without consequence, just try to keep your mouth open. Would you open your mouth and breathe through the mouth in public?
I wouldn't.
Why?
You just...
Since it's the same, right? According to these guys, not to you. Because you look stupid.
You look dumb.
Okay, you look dumb. And dumb means unintelligent.
Sorry, mouth breathers.
Sorry, unintelligent, but it's fixable. Unintelligent and out of shape, no energy. Mm-hmm. So if you breathe through the mouth, either your nose is chronically congested, means there's an underlying health issue there, or structural issue, or both. An allergy, immune system down, structural issue like narrow pathways and all, which, by the way, can be actually created by mouth breathing during your childhood and teenage time. Okay. So you wouldn't do it the same way you probably wouldn't want to stay like that in front of people and then drop your jaw, right? Because you're not going to look very present or engaging or interesting. People will feel sorry for you. But why? Mark mentioned the movie where the actors intentionally, they go, whatever it is, and they do all kind of stupid things because it shows distress.
Dramatic, yeah.
It's dramatic. Okay. There's a reason for that. It's just like, we did jumping and landing and all. You can read movement. You can read if movement is stiff, it's coordinated, balanced, or if it's whatever, the opposites, nimble, or stiff, coordinated, or gesticulation, basically technical or not, efficient or not. So you look at a mouth breather, typically you're like, okay, if their skin complexion doesn't look good, typically their energy doesn't look high, etc. So why? Because we're supposed to breathe through the nose. Now, people say, okay, why do you need to breathe through the nose? Oh, because nitric oxide. Okay, sure. People parrot, everybody parrots everybody. Nitric oxide was discovered, I think, not even 20 years ago. So now everybody talks about nitric oxide. It's very important. It's true. But I like to synthesize things to make them very, very simple and understandable for most people who don't want to go down the rabbit hole. This is why you should breathe through the nose. Because that's the only way you can process the air that you breathe. Processing the air. The mouth cannot do that. The throat cannot do that. The nostrils and the nasal cavities, sinuses, can do that. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean, processing the air? If there are gross particles in the air, filtered by the hairs you have there. If the air is too cold, it's going to be warmed up. If the air is too hot, it's going to be cooled down. If there are some germs, some of them are going to be killed.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, why? Because the lungs, it's an extremely fragile environment. And it actually has its own human system. There are bacteria that are in the lungs that are specific to the lungs. There is surfactant, like layers of fat, and there's all kind of things in the lungs. Why? Because it's extremely sophisticated tissues that are going to enable the precious oxygen molecules to go straight into your bloodstream. You think that you'll also want anything from the air, especially today. Back in the days already, in nature, when the air was pure before any industry from mankind, air was completely pure. Today, it's not. In fact, we think of the pollution outside in the streets, and there is, but there's a lot of pollution indoors because of all the materials that the indoors are made of, and you have all kind of molecules. So the more you talk, the more gas exchange you need. Because what's talking? It's you vocalize your exhale. So the faster you talk and the louder you talk, the more air in your lungs you need. This is why old people, you can barely hear them and they speak slowly. Why? Because they don't have the power, the breathing power to vocalize. Okay. Because you need to breathe more and fast, it's a little like an exercise. It's difficult to breathe through the nose. It's possible, you can train yourself to do that. It's more difficult to breathe through the nose when you speak. Anyways, every time you inhale through the mouth, anything that's in the air can go straight into your lungs. So now you wonder why you're going to have sometimes coughing. Some people have asthma, etc. Why? Because their lungs are irritated. They're irritated because they're not breathing through the nose. All right. So processing the air, making the air as pure, as balanced as possible, the right temperature, the right humidity. If the air is too humid outside, it's going to take some of the moisture out. If the air is very dry, it's going to add some moisture in. That's why you need to hydrate more when you live like me in a high elevation desert. It's not just because it's hot. It's not always hot. In the winter, it's cold. You still need to breathe more. Why? Because there's no moisture in the air, so you need more water to moisturize the air that goes in your lungs. Everything is like that. The body is not an energy system. It's a series of energy systems within an energy system. And everything needs to be balanced. So breathing through the nose processes the air. Then we can talk about nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is basically it's a neurotransmitter, but it's also what it does is that it helps making your blood vessels smoother to open them up, and that's why most of the nitric oxide that we create, that we generate, is generated by the epithelium, which is the outer surface of the blood vessel. So it would be like, what blood vessel are you talking about? The one, the only one. Blood vessel, we say blood vessels, but actually it's only one. It's one organ. And they say if you were to unravel it, you could stretch it several times around the planet Earth, which is absolutely mind-blowing. One human being, okay. So that all blood vessels are basically related. It's like one, if you could, same as the nervous system, by the way. You know, when you see like those images of the brain and then all the nerves, you do the same with the blood vessels. The outer lining is that epithelium. It's the one that creates the nitric oxide. Why is it so important? Because if you don't smoothen and open up your blood vessels, blood has problem moving around and circulating, and therefore oxygenation is challenging. Okay, there's that. But what tells? Okay, you do biceps curls, biceps are bulging. You do calves raise, calves. Why is the blood going there and there? How does it know where to go?
You're contracting the area.
You need neurotransmitters. You need some informants that tell, hey, it's the action is in that muscle. Go there. So it helps distribute blood flow where it needs to be. Okay. So there's still a lot that we don't know about breathing physiology and cellular respiration, but some of the things we know. So yeah, nasal breathing is extremely important. Also, what else can I say about that? Okay. Have you ever tried measuring your respiratory rate?
I think I've looked on an app or something before, and yeah, I think I've seen it, but I don't think I've ever really tried to train it. Maybe other than the O2 trainer thing that we have, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
So you
Correct.
take is there a simple way to do it? 1 minute, you at the end of a regular exhale, you start your chronometer, your stopwatch, and you're gonna inhale normally, exhale normally, inhale normally, exhale normally. One inhale, one exhale, one breath cycle. Then you count after 60 seconds how many breath cycles you've got. You want to do that in the morning, or at least you need to rest for
I think
a
I
few
have
minutes.
done that before. Is that called a Bolt score? Is that what we're talking about? Or is a Bolt score a little different?
It's different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's different. I'm not a big fan of Bolt score to be honest, but because I don't think that it's representative of anything. It's not. It's certainly not CO2 tolerance one bit. So that's a misconception. But without going into those details, back to the respiratory rate. Do this. You sit on the chair and you count how many breath cycles you take in 60 seconds through the nose. Then you do exactly the same thing except you breathe through the mouth. You will breathe at least 30% faster. Okay. That means that you will take at least 30% extra breath cycles. The question is, has your metabolic rate changed in any way? It's not. Just because you breathe through the mouth doesn't mean all of a sudden you need more oxygen. But you're still increasing 30% the gas exchange. So now you have more oxygen that circulate in your body that you don't need at all. Because already, even when you take 20 breath cycles per minute, that doesn't mean that all the oxygen that you breathe from that air is used. In fact, there's 20% oxygen in the air. But when you exhale, and that few people know that, how much oxygen is left when you exhale, when you are doing nothing, just sitting? 15 to 18%. What does that mean? You use some oxygen, but not that much. What does that mean? It means that you could supply your body with enough oxygen with many fewer breaths than that. Okay, now if you accelerate your breathing, you can do that for fun for a minute and then 5 minutes, and then you're like, okay, give me a break. I want to breathe normally now. I want to breathe slower. Why? Because it ups you, it agitates you, it's not pleasant. Imagine if you do that 24/7.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you breathe through the mouth.
And then you snore.
And then you snore. Your nervous system is agitated, since everybody knows, okay, slower breathing rate, calmness, tranquility. When you get an infection, you got a cold, you lack sleep, you're angry, anything, you breathe faster. Those are detrimental.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could recalibrate your respiratory rate, say from 15 to 8, that's already cut in half. It's a huge, huge impact on the health of your nervous system and the quality of your life. Now, if you want to do some math, and I don't want to do some math because I'm not really good at math, but think of it this way. 60 minutes, 60 seconds per minute, sorry, okay. 60 minutes, you count 24 hours, you multiply all that, and then you multiply by how many breath cycles you took in a day. Okay. If you are able to reflexively, means, okay, cut your breathing rate, your respiratory rate in two, thanks to practice, again, it's a recalibration, and it's possible. Because the way you breathe is nothing else but a habit. It's a habit. Just the way you think, the way you respond. Habits. Human beings are amazing at habits. Why? Because habits save energy, save time and energy, makes things simpler. Problem is that when your habits are not great, so it's detrimental to you. Okay, so breathing is one of those. without going into all the potential causes why most people breathe too fast. But imagine if any of you, anyone could cut their breathing rate in two, means breathe twice as slow as they breathe now. How do you think this would impact your well-being, your energy, etc.?
Your blood work and so on.
Yeah. So just want to finish blood work, all of that, immune system, but that's thousands of breath cycles per 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So if you cut that in two or even reduce that 10, 20, 30%, that's thousands of less breath cycles. Okay. After a year, after 10 years, we're talking about millions, hundreds of millions, ultimately billions of breath cycles, breaths that you have maybe taken that were completely unnecessary. How do you think this could affect your health of your nervous system, your well-being, all of that?
Absolutely.
It's not breathing more. That's the thing. Stepping more, walking more is good for you, but breathing more, no bueno, not good. Mm-mm.
So, Mark, you have been loving wearing these Paluvas for a long time. Why is it that you like these shoes that look like this?
I'm trying to get my feet to be jacked. I think it's funny how sometimes people will, when I wear these shoes, they're like, oh, those are different. And I'm like, well, maybe you should blame God because this is the human foot. This is the way that it looks. But Paluvas are awesome because it's going to allow you to train your feet and train your toes and allow for that toe spread because you got the 5-finger toe thing going on. It's like put on a glove for your feet. It feels amazing.
It's like walking around with toe spacers. We've been working on our feet for a long time now. You always hear the benefit of people talking about like these tribes who have gone without shoes forever. And they have this toe space and have these amazing feet. And these shoes will allow you to just passively get that back by walking around.
You don't realize what a disadvantage you're at when your foot is all clumped together from the football cleats or soccer cleats or whatever else you were wearing when you were young. And so it's nice to be able to splay your toes. In addition to that, though, one thing I love about Paluva is the fact that it's not a regular barefoot shoe. I do love barefoot shoes as well, but it also has appropriate padding. And when you're stepping on some crazy pebbles and rocks and different things, like when I'm out on a run, some terrain is a little different than others. I don't have to be worried that I'm going to get some sort of stabbing, crazy thing happening to my foot because it has an appropriate amount of cushion underneath the foot.
And guys, Paluva has a lot of different styles on their website. I think one of the newest styles they just came out with, which is a little bit more of a rigorous shoe, is the Strand ATR. It's not these are the Strands, but the ATRs have a little bit more. If you want to go hiking with them, you totally can.
Those are amazing. If you go out, throw those on and go sprint on a field and your feet feel so strong, grabbing the grass and being able to actually grab the ground with your foot feels amazing.
I'm more of a chill guy with my Paluva, so I like the Zen slip-ons, but that's the thing. With Paluva, there's a lot of different options. So if you head to paluva.com and use code POWERPROJECT, you'll be able to save 15% off your entire purchase. And they also have toe socks. Their 5-finger toe socks are no show, so check those out too.
I want to do something challenging. Let's say it's a workout. Any, breathing tips for that? Or would you recommend breath holding before or after? Is it, are you going to can you get an advantage from training or is it more like just the practice of breath holding in general will kind of help more so than just doing it like beforehand?
It's a great question. In the BreathHoldWork method, there are 3 pillars. There's the breathing mastery, breath holding. There are techniques for that, but most importantly, and also meditation. Because if your mind is not in the right place, because it does not know how to place itself in the right place, then breathing can help, or no breathing can help, but you might just stay very agitated. Okay. What makes breathing very beneficial? Again, there are dozens of diverse breathing exercises out there. Why should you do all of them? And especially do all of them in one session. Just to make sure you've covered your base, Leave no stone unturned. The problem is that I call that ragbag breath work. You can have breathing exercises that are antagonistic. Some agitate you, some calm you down, etc. But also there's that temptation of being esoteric or saying, it's good for that, it's good for that. It's good no matter what, anybody, at any point, anywhere, it's good for you. Not necessarily. I would never ask anyone to do hyperventilation if they're already like not in a calm state. And if I ask them to do hyperventilation, it will not be hyperventilation the way people know hyperventilation. So I want to do some practical exercises actually, but think of it this way. So first, we talk about the respiration, so the breathing, the biomechanics. Respiratory muscles must be very strong, and the rib cage must be very flexible and as large as possible. It means that your lungs have volume. Okay. Why? If you spend little muscular energy to get your breaths, if you have a rib cage that's flexible, that can inflate and deflate easily because it's not stiff and it's wide. Okay. And you breathe through the nose and your nasal passages are open and nice. You can breathe slowly, very slowly. If your breathing muscles are weak, if your rib cage is small and stiff, think elderly people. It's dramatic. Nobody wants to reach that stage, but not every elderly person breathes like that. Some breathe just impeccable. So it's not something that's unavoidable. All right. So we can target the diaphragm to begin with. One of the ways, start with a deep exhale like this. You can do that through the nose or through your mouth. Doesn't matter too much. Then you're going to inhale. And what happens when you inhale is that you feel the push outwardly. And you're going to try to push, keep pushing. And you want to feel the effort. And you're going to start to feel like it pulls in your back because you are pushing the limits of your diaphragm. So it's like if you were to do a biceps curls. Okay. You can do it very slowly. You can do it very quickly. You can do it slow on the way up, fast on the way down, or the opposite. You can do it like very fast like that. Okay. Why? Because you can control that muscle. You want to control the diaphragm the same way. So a good way to strengthen your diaphragm is to put it under pressure. So what you do is that, for instance, you get in the sit-up position. You lift off your feet just 1 inch. Now you have your abdominal wall is super strong, super hard. So the movement of the diaphragm is like it's pushing against hard tissues, hardened tissues. It has to do more effort to do that. Okay, that's one way. I mean, I could not teach everything.
In that position, would it be helpful to have like a 5 or 10 pound plate there, just as like some sort of like feedback of some sort of a medicine ball or something like that?
Possibly. So I have, when I teach Breathwork. So I remember in 2009, my first MoveNat workshops, like so the natural movement thing we're talking about. That's what originally I teach. Then I created the BreathHoldWork method. I would always start with breathing. And I said, first we learn breath control because I'm going to teach you climbing stuff, jumping, etc. But again, if you don't control your breath, that's going to mess with your technique all the time because you'll hold your breath will be jerky, etc. I will always pick the heaviest guy. I would lay down on my back. Mm-hmm. I would ask somebody to help the person balance because they would step straight on my diaphragm. So not on the sternum, not on the bones, right below. Okay, guys sometimes like 240 pounds. And then I would keep breathing through the diaphragm. So instead of going like this, let me go, I'm dying, I would breathe through the diaphragm. And you would see literally everybody, all the participants could see the person elevate, descend, elevate, descend. Why that little? Because that's the range of motion of my diaphragm. It's not a big range of motion. But that was enough to push 240 pounds without reverting to chest breathing. And I would talk at the same time. So this is what's happening. And I'm going to tell you honestly, it's not pleasant at all. I don't like it, but I just want to demonstrate. I would take a breath and then talk again, that the diaphragm is this powerful. It's not the most powerful muscle in the body. Actually, it's the most powerful muscles are in the jaw, but it's one of them. Okay, so it's like a pump. So when you want to inflate a tire on a bike, first you get air from the atmosphere. So you pull, it absorbs air in the chamber, in the tube, and then you push it in the chamber inside the tire. It's a super basic mechanical process that's based on differentials of pressure. So you have atmospheric pressure. How do you invite air to go into your lungs? You're not going like this. Okay. So what you do is that you pull, you have like a pump inside, that's a diaphragm. And it's like that when it's at rest. It's like a globe, a dome, like a half dome. And it's going to invert, convex, concave, like a vision lens. Okay. So when it does that, it creates a depression in the lungs. So now the pressure, it's called intrapulmonary pressure, in the lungs is less than the atmospheric pressure. And since your airways are open, air comes in. If you want to stop that, either you stop the pump or you close the airways. And even if you try, so try this. And everybody can do that, by the way. Close your mouth, pinch your nose, and try to inhale. Like try hard to inhale. What happens? What do you feel in your lungs? Like
Pressure. I feel pressure.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's like if you empty your lungs. It's funny because you want to fill them up, but it feels like they get empty.
Yeah.
Because you depress the pressure inside the lungs and you feel it. Okay. Do the opposite now. You close your mouth, you pinch your nose, and you try to exhale.
The ears are going to pop.
Yep.
Yeah, the ears, and you feel your stomach kind of flex.
Yeah, but what do you feel in your lungs? The pressure goes up.
Right.
And because the pressure goes up, when you open your airways, it goes up because it goes out because you rebalance everything. So that's the system of biomechanical ventilation. It's a pressure system that's based on the pump. So when you inhale, the shape of the diaphragm reverts like that. And that's when you feel the outer side of it that pushes out. But it does the same on the side and inside too. Okay, it's a membrane. So you feel that. Now, if you add abdominal wall very hard, it gets harder. And the other way to do it is to run very hard, not too long. You do that for a few minutes. You breathe through the nose. And what you make sure is that your primary engine for breathing is your diaphragm. I mean, you don't go for a high intensity, but then you open your mouth and you mostly breathe like that. This will do nothing. But if you focus, you keep your nose, obviously you keep your nose open, but you keep your mouth shut, and you make sure to ventilate through the diaphragm, you will feel the diaphragm start to you will feel the burn in the diaphragm. That's when you know that you're training the diaphragm as a muscle. It's a workout for it. Very strong. So this is not something we can do here in the studio, but there's something we can do that's hyperventilation without being hyperventilation. Okay, so when we talk about hyperventilation, we're talking about a departure from normal ventilation, which is the regular way you breathe, the way you breathe. So that includes a specific respiratory rate. Maybe somebody is 12, another person is 18. Per breath, you have a certain volume. So now that's the respiratory volume. Okay. When you hyperventilate, you increase one of the other or both. So you can hyperventilate like that. Like a little rodent or something. Small volume, but high high rate. Okay. Ultimately, the overall minute in relation, volume in relation to time goes up. Another one would be to take slow breaths, but very deep breaths. It's not seen as hyperventilation because it's slow, but it is hyperventilation because if you take several breaths like that, the volume of air that you end up with in 1 minute is way higher than what you would normally have if you breathe normally. And then you can do both. You can take big breaths, like in the Wim Hof exercise. But even the big breaths are actually not that big because you don't really reach full expansion and full deflation. It's somewhere in between. But then you add the speed. Okay. If you want power breath, don't do that. There's a better way to do it. So one is isolate the diaphragm, train the diaphragm specifically. Another one is to train the upper respiratory muscles. So this is what you're going to do, and anybody who's listening can do that. You inhale, and you keep inhaling until you're full. And when you're full, you keep trying. So it goes like this. So normally I'm full here and I deflate. No.
And only through the nose?
Here I'm kind of sipping through the mouth.
Okay.
You can do it through the nose. It doesn't matter. If it's just a few breaths like that through the mouth, you're fine. Okay. But you're going to feel that your upper respiratory muscles are under tension for a long time. You're going to feel how it pulls everywhere along your spine, everywhere. I want you to experience that.
Okay. Here we go.
And Nsima do it too. More. Keep doing it. Okay, now relax. Now breathe normally. Take 2-3 regular breath cycles. Because if you were to do that right away, then you would be really hyperventilating. Breathe normal, reset, calm down. Next time you do that, think of it as a strength exercise, because it literally is. And what's interesting is that if you look at, in Wikipedia, for instance, you look at the list of respiratory muscles. So you have a diaphragm, that's the main engine. Then you have plenty of other muscles, intercostal muscles, the pectorals, scalene, other muscles like that participates in your ability to inflate your lungs more, which, by the way, you never need when you are indoors doing nothing. You should never breathe like that, ever, because it's completely unnecessary. Just the diaphragm alone is more than you need.
Yeah.
So you need those muscles when you go for high-intensity movement, which back in the days in nature, you needed probably every day. Today, you need it not even once a year. You only need it when, something happens where still you need to survive or help others, so you need a physical response. Otherwise, no intensity. Anyways, when you do that, you may discover the next day you've got, DOMS, you get sore in places you didn't know, like literally in a back, because you will find a way to mobilize anything you can to keep inflating your lungs to try to get some extra air in them. And that's doing that strengthens your respiratory muscles, opens up your rib cage, makes it more flexible. Therefore, your lungs can grow in size. Okay. The lungs are made of tiny sacs called the alveoli. An alveolus has a certain size and you have a certain count. So you cannot, at least that's what science says, you cannot increase the alveolus or alveoli count. But you can increase their area. How? By stretching it. So if you unfold your lungs, you've got literally like a football field and a half, I think, of because it's not just the lungs. You're like, no way. Like you put the lungs at maybe the whole table at the most if you stretch it. No, every alveoli is like a little sac, little bubble, open bubble. So if you open up that bubble and stretch it, then you have an area. And since you have 500 million of those, then you have a football field of what? Of internal surface, internal area that's exposed to air full of oxygen after it's been processed through the nostrils. And that's how much area you need to get the oxygen your whole body needs, all the cells, the trillions of cells in your body need. So by doing that, you can increase the size of your ribcage, its flexibility, but also next would be to do that and to hold your breath, because now you maintain the stretch effect on all the tissues surrounding your ribcage, of your ribcage and surrounding your ribcage. And your lungs also are stretched. So you
take that deep breath and then hold?
Yep.
Oh.
This is why you're not getting as many benefits if you do your breath holds after an exhale. You do more benefits if you do a breath hold after an inhale. Because after an exhale, you don't have a stretching effect. Not only that, but obviously, your breath holds will be shorter in time. So that means you have less work to do or less time to focus on what's going on in your mind, mentally, emotionally. And there are other benefits of breath holding on an inhale, full inhale, that don't exist when you do breath holding after an exhale.
So you can get benefits both ways.
You do get benefits from any form of breath holding, but you get more benefits from holding your breath after an inhale, a maximum inhale. To begin with the ability to sustain that high intrapulmonary pressure, which is in itself at first to beginners, it's unpleasant. But by the way, you don't even need to take maximum inhales. When you're a beginner, that's not how I start people. I start people with slow breathing and very gentle breath holds.
Can you do stuff like this on a walk, or is it more...
Completely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I strictly recommend about doing exhale breath holds on a walk or on a run, because you can, the same way you can black out under the surface when you swim after an exhale, even when you swim after an inhale. But if you swim after an exhale, if on top of it you hyperventilate after or before a hold on an exhale, and then you move, the propensity to black out, including if you're not in the water, is much higher. So you could faint and break your face, face plant or something while trying to do something like that. Not safe. So I recommend against it, obviously.
So instead, if you're on a run, you're recommending holding your breath on an inhale. Is that what you're saying? Or am I missing that?
Oh, no, I would say...
Like you're going to do a breath hold while you're running.
No, you were talking about walking, not running at first.
Okay.
So, and I would say, yeah, you can do gentle breath holds, and we can do that exercise now, actually. But, okay. Now, if what you want is hypoxemia, which people call hypoxia, which is not exactly the same. Hypoxemia is when you start to have less oxygen in your bloodstream. Hypoxia is when your tissues, including potentially at some point your brain, have less oxygen. But even that is not necessarily dangerous. It actually can be very, very, very beneficial. When you hold your breath, you will have more oxygen going to your brain and to your heart. More, not less, more. Why? Because they're the two most noble organs. They cannot stop.
And we have a lot of oxygen inside our body already.
We're saturated with oxygen. So when people want to breathe right away, when they hold their breath, it has nothing to do with lacking oxygen. It has everything to do with their nervous system does not have the emotional resiliency to handle it, so it messes up with their mind and they quit right away. That's it. Okay? It's a mindset thing. because it's unfamiliar. So what isn't familiar to us is always a threat. And what's a threat? If regulating the threat, getting back to homeostasis, balance, is as simple as breathing again, it's a no-brainer, okay? It takes really a lot of inner strength or willpower to hold your breath a long time. Now, if you want hypoxia, all these like mask things, like fitness, bullshit. Okay. You don't create hypoxia like that. You may create some hypoxemia, means you will have a little less oxygen in your bloodstream. It could be also that it's not just that it's hard to breathe in oxygen, harder to breathe in oxygen. It's also that it's hard to breathe out CO2. So what you think is a hypoxic state is actually a hypercapnic state, where you have more CO2 in your bloodstream than you can handle, and then your autonomic nervous system just want to regulate that. Anyways, if what you want is to be hypoxic the fastest way possible, it's very simple. You exhale all the air you can. So you start with nothing in the tank. And then you run as fast as you can. You spend as much as oxygen as you can in the fastest amount of time. Starting with no air in your tank. That's it. That's how you get hypoxic the fastest. So when people say, CO2 is what triggers the urge to breathe because you read a book that says that, or because you read a blog article that says that, or because you heard somebody who says that, and basically, again, everybody parrots everybody, it's not what it is. The reason why you want to breathe fast after you hold your breath, or soon after you start holding your breath, is because it's an autonomic threat that your conscious mind cannot handle yet, because it's unfamiliar with it. It's a new sensation, cannot handle it. So a very strong response from the autonomic nervous system, and very weak response from the conscious mind. Yeah.
What about like a CO2 mask? Any benefits to that, or like, are you into any?
Yeah,
gadgets?
I was talking about that. You mean CO2 mask, or it's a hypoxic mask, like fitness mask
Yeah, I haven't even really. I only used it like a couple times. I need to use it a little bit more often. But
I don't use that.
Yeah, you just a mask and you just put it on for 2-3 minutes and breathe it, and it just has a little bit more CO2 in it.
If what you want, you can have the exact same effect without the mask. All you need to do, for instance, if you breathe through the nose when you used to breathe through the mouth, right, and you go for the same workout, same movement, same intensity, all of a sudden you force yourself to breathe exclusively through the nose, you don't need a mask. You already have a reduction of your airflow. So in breath, out breath, the gas exchange is reduced because the nasal passages are way more narrow than an open mouth. So it's exactly the same. What's the mask going to do? You're going to breathe through plastic. I don't think that's a good idea. You're going to mouth breathe in it. You're not going to nasal breathe in it. Because you're like, well, the mask is already making it hard, so why would I make it even harder? Okay. So why not just breathe through the nose? And you don't need a mask. And I know the mask makes you look like futuristic and super tough, but it's just a flashy thing. It's a flashy accessory. So if some people want to do it or swear by it, why not? But I personally don't use it.
Are you a fan of any tools? Like, are there some things that you found to be helpful or that you utilize in your practice that people can? Because it's nice, like if you have some stuff that you can just buy. Sometimes it's helpful to have a little gadget to utilize. But
I'm a big believer that we are of technology.
Yep.
But I have nothing against technology. At the moment, I'm super interested in AI. But when it comes to my personal practice, okay, so I hold my breath I like to use what's called a nose clip. So it pinches my nose. This is not important for a beginner, but when you got to high level, there's a point where you'll have those respiratory motions from your respiratory muscles, but you will not open your airways. However, if you're facing the water, you need to pinch your nose because you're going to create those differences in intrapulmonary pressure, and some water may come in. So you'll really feel when you start to really struggle hard. That's when you push to the red zone, and beginners should not push to the red zone. You're going to have to go like this. But if you have a nose clip, it does do it externally for you. I like to have a chronometer. I like to have a phone in a pouch or in a case with an app that tells me, okay, 4 minutes, breath hold. That's at altitude. So where I live and train, so times are shorter, but then you decide, okay, 4 minutes, breath hold, no time indication, 1 minute recovery, 4 minutes again, or for 5, for 10, 1 minute recovery, for 20, 1 minute. Like you can sequence. Basically, you create mini programs.
Doing like sets.
You do sets and reps. Exactly. It's the same idea. It's progressive overload. Okay, well, it's progressive exposure to increased demand and specific adaptation to impose demand. The same principles apply to breath holding as well. So for me, it's fantastic because I have a long background of athletic physical activity, and I love physicality, but I also have a great interest in everything philosophical and spiritual. And to me, BreathHoldWork is the perfect fusion between the two, because to be performing at that high level of physicality, I need my mind to be in the right place. So I'm practicing the mind as well. The mind can be practiced. It should be practiced. Yeah.
Any particular ways of breathing for like getting to sleep or taking a nap or something like that?
All right. So how about we do the exercise? It's
Sure.
very simple. You breathe normally. Anybody. So
Yeah, listeners, give it a shot.
listeners, yeah, give it a shot. You inhale, normal. Like not less, not more than you would normally inhale. You inhale, you hold. You don't count. You don't push. Very brief. Then you exhale. You inhale, hold. So it takes literally a few seconds, except you do not, you will not count anything. You just let it be, okay? So that's what you do. Inhale, hold. Exhale, normal. Inhale, hold. Exhale, inhale, hold. Keep doing that. If you can close your eyes, that's better. If you want to be in a state of tranquility, especially if you have trouble falling asleep, close your eyes. Make sure there's no light in your room. Ideally, no Wi-Fi, no phone, nothing. Just do that. No hyperventilation, no hype. It's not a vibe. It's real. You're slowing down your breath by slowing down means at some point you can start slowing down the exhale and slowing down the inhale. And then you hold. You will find yourself without even wanting it, holding your breath a little longer every time and still feeling good about it or even like great about it. You give yourself, what is yourself? The mind that you are. The mind, the consciousness that you are. That's what we are, consciousness. You give that consciousness one single point of focus, the breath. The breath and the no breath for a few seconds. No measurement. No thought, no judgment, no analysis, nothing. Just be present with that breath and that pause and that breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, hold. Exhale, inhale, hold. If you do it now during the show, you're You're gonna go like this.
Yeah, it felt super relaxing right away.
My eyelids were getting a little bit heavier as we were doing it. I was like, okay, I see why this can work.
I have a tip for people too. Like I've been talking about like an eye mask for a long time. I think they're great. So, if you have an eye mask, try what you're talking about and actually intentionally try to do it with your eyes open, because that darkness is going to help you to go to sleep too. And it's going to be near impossible for you to keep your eyes open. You're going to last maybe like 10 seconds if you're lucky.
Mark.
I first started hearing about transcriptions from Thomas DeLauer.
Yep.
And, Thomas is somebody that's an animal with working out. You got a chance to work out with him. I worked out with him. And he's kind of always on the front lines of like, finding out about these new companies that have cool things. But I didn't really realize that Transcriptions was the first company to put out Methylene Blue. And now look at Methylene Blue. It's so popular. It's everywhere.
It's one of those things. If you guys listen to this podcast, I'm very iffy with the supplements that I take because there's a lot of shady stuff out there.
You got to be careful.
The great thing about Transcriptions is that when people want to get Methylene Blue, usually they'll go on Amazon, they're going on these other sites. It's not third-party tested. It's not dosed. A lot of people end up with toxicity from the blue that they get because there's no testing of it. Transcriptions, they have third-party testing for the products. It's dosed, so you know easily what exact dose of Methylene Blue you're getting in each troche. So you're not making some type of mistake. There's not going to be anything in it. It's safe.
You can have it dissolve and you can turn your whole world blue if you want, or you can just swallow it. They have two different types of Methylene Blue. They have one that is, I believe, dosed at 16 milligrams, and they have another one that's dosed at 50 milligrams. So make sure you check the milligrams. I don't recommend anybody start at 50 milligrams, but the 16 I feel is very safe. You can also score the troches and you can break them up into smaller bits.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And in addition to that, on top of the Methylene Blue, they have a lot of other great products and stuff as well. They got stuff for sleep. They got stuff for calming down, all kinds of things.
I got to say, I use it about 2 or 3 times a week. I use it before jiu-jitsu. And the cool thing that I've noticed, and I've paid attention to this over the past few months, is that after sessions, I don't feel as tired. So it's almost like I've become more efficient with just the way I use my body in these hard sessions of grappling. And it's like, cool, that means that, I could go for longer if I wanted to, and my recovery is better affected. It's pretty great.
I know Dr. Scott Schur, we had him on the podcast, and he talked quite a bit about how he recommends Methylene Blue to a lot of the athletes that he works with.
Yeah.
And they're seeing some profound impacts. And one of the things I've heard about it is that it can enhance red light. So those of you doing red light therapy, or those of you that have some opportunities to get out into some good sunlight, it might be a good idea to try some Methylene Blue before you go out on your walk or run outside or whatever activity it is that you're going to do outside.
And this stuff is great, but please, first off, they have that stuff for staying calm. They have stuff for sleep. But remember, this stuff isn't a substitution for sleep. This isn't a substitution for taking care of your nutrition. This is supposed to be an add-on to all the things that we already should be doing, and it's going to make things so much better if you're doing everything else too.
And I think this is just a little different too than just adding some magnesium to your diet. I think this is a little different than...
Yeah.
Treat these things appropriately. Make sure you do some of your own research. But
if you're taking medications, SSRIs, you better talk to your doctor first. Don't be popping these things.
And if you're taking any medications at all, it'd be good to double, triple, quadruple check and make sure that you're safe. Transcriptions has a lot of great things that you need, so go and check out their website when you have the opportunity. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.
When I practice in a swimming pool, which, by the way, BreathHoldWork is done dry, means on land, not in swimming pool. It's not free diving. I'm teaching a meditation method, also breath power, so recalibrate the breath, learn to hold your breath. But to hold your breath, it's some physical techniques for holding the breath. It's most importantly understanding what you're doing, what you're going through, and how to handle it through a meditation. Now, imagine when I do breath holding in the water. Okay. I can keep my eyes open. I can keep my eyes closed. Different impact. The water can be warmer, can be colder, changes things. There can be solar light in the water, or actually can be dark. That changes the mood. I have done breath holds with people around, and then you start hearing people, what is it doing? Like, is it dangerous or whatever? And they're drinking a cocktail right next to me, and they're talking about me. or kids splashing and jumping and sometimes literally swimming underneath me. Okay. I'm training my mind to be composed, to be resilient, to not be reactive, to basically master my inner experience. I need to decide what it is and to commit to it. You think I'm going to just like emerge from the water and be like, what are you guys doing? Like, stop talking about me and you kids, like, stop playing and all. Choose your response. So you have to be emotionally resilient because there is a temptation here. Number one, it gives you an excuse right away to stop what you're doing, which is, okay, now I can breathe. So perfect. Somebody's disturbing me. How about I breathe again? Or it can be like, so that's it. You're that weak that you hear somebody talk. Maybe they're talking about you. Maybe they're not even talking about you. They're talking about whatever business they have. They don't care that you die right in front of them, even though you have somebody, your safety, who's looking at you, making sure you're safe, which, by the way, it is safe. But you have to be strong. There are different ways to be strong. It's not like hot, red, heart strong, like, do it, one more. It's not that kind of strong. It's a very soft willpower because it's got to last. So it's very different. And I know what it is to push myself really hard, like hotly, do one more, run more. You know, I've done long distance triathlon. I've done some Olympic weight, all amateur, but okay, I've done some martial arts and stuff. So I know just, like anybody else, how to push myself. But the way you got to push yourself in breath holding is completely different. It's like soft power. So you have a temptation of being frustrated. And when you think about it, think of the two. And again, I'm bringing that to like consciousness and the mind and psychology. But really, if you pay attention to the tremendous importance, what your psyche is, how it behaves, is everything in your life. So you'd better understand that quickly and do something about it and improve anything you can improve, because there's a lot of low-hanging fruits there. So those are the two elements that people deal with all the time: anxiety and frustration. That's it. Anxiety, frustration. And if you don't have anxiety and frustration, that's worse. They are in depression. It doesn't hit them anymore. They don't want to live. It's like a no-life thing. It's like no energy, no desire, no expectation. Like, ugh. Okay. Now, anxiety is what? What are you afraid of? Because what is it to be anxious? You're concerned. That's why people love a good show. To be free of concern for a moment. Entertain me. Let's talk. Let's watch a show.
Watching somebody else's concerns, yeah.
Video games, anything that shuts you off from your concern, from what worries you, from what preoccupies you, from what makes you fear. Because fear is a scope. So at intense level, you have fright. You're about to die, gunpoint, boom. That's it. You think it's the last moment. But you have tons of, we hear about like micro injuries, micro tears and stuff. In the end, boom, the bone breaks, the ligament breaks, something like the muscle tears. The same happens to the not the brain, but to the psyche, to our mind. So we have tons of micro events of anxiety and frustration. Again, those are the two pillars. And that's why I teach. Fear is a scope. So you're like, I'm not afraid, I'm just a little preoccupied. You're afraid. There is something that you anticipate that is detrimental to you, and you're preoccupied trying to either find a solution to prevent it because you know it's real, trying to find a solution to prevent it even though it does not even exist, but you imagine that it could be a problem, and trying to deal with the consequences of something that has already happened that you cannot change. You try to see what you can change to do what? To regulate yourself back into the state where you do not experience that preoccupation, that concern, that anxiety, that fear. The problem is that it becomes such a habit that then you're in that loop all the time. So you never experience actual trust in this life. So how can you enjoy life if you're constantly anxious? You're constantly finding reasons to be afraid, even if it's like a limited scope, it's low intensity of fear. But you're in that mood, in that energy every day, 24/7, even at night. You toss around because things bother you. Okay. The antidote to that, you can think of it two ways. One is that some magic wand is going to go like, boom, all your problems are solved. We got nothing else to do, nothing to manage, just to enjoy your life. Go. Never going to happen. Okay. No matter what, you still will have to manage yourself and your life. What can you regulate in life? Not the weather, not the politics, not the stock market. What do we manage? Our car, the outside, clean, the inside, clean, the engine, inside, works well. Okay. Your bedroom, hopefully, if your mama told you to clean your bedroom. Your house can be clean, can be orderly or disorderly. Okay, you can manage all that. Then the way you look, the way you brush your hair, the way you behave, the way you sound, the words you use, etc. Okay, this you can manage all of that. And beyond that, what can you manage? Zero. You cannot manage people, you cannot manage the way they think, you cannot manage the way that, there's just, you cannot clean every street, you cannot regulate the traffic. That's it. You take care of yourself. Okay. That can cause a lot of preoccupations because there's so much to handle and there's so much to anticipate to make sure that, that happens, I got this, that happens, I got this. But when you don't think that you have the answers, then you start to have more anxiety. Okay. You're never going to regulate everything that worries you. The only thing you can regulate is you being worried or not worried. That's it. Choice right there. Can you make that choice? Can you give yourself a break? Because you will have, no matter what, to regulate yourself and your life, your job, your children, your partners, your lovers, your everything, your finances, your health, your physical performance, all of that. Can you imagine how many things we have to manage or ask ourselves to be responsible for, in charge of, and to do well? That's pretty ambitious. You bet we have concerns. Okay. There's a point where you need to give yourself a break and just feel and decide that you establish in this moment, here and now, complete trust. Yeah, but the condition is I choose so right now. That's one. This number one is trust. And this is why the Bible says, do not fear. How many times? How many times do you read that in the Holy Book? So many times. It doesn't matter that you're a believer or not, because that you do believe or don't believe, you are subject to the same spiritual challenges and opportunities. Life is not supposed to be perfect. If it was, it would be boring. There would be no willpower. There's no way to exercise your spiritual abilities and to define yourself through the intentional generations of the thoughts and the desires and the expectations and the behaviors that you choose for yourself, that define who you are. That defines who you are much more than like, my name is James and James Crawford and I'm 26 and I live there and I've done that and that's my ethnicity and this is identity. It's some idea you have about the entity that you are. The entity that you are is a soul. You don't have a soul. You are one. And it needs to know itself. Because know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods. Problem is, that little S in the end is completely superfluous. There's only one God. And we can align ourselves with that truth or dismiss it, but keep on suffering. Because morality is real, and to yourself, to make yourself feel good to begin with, make others feel good. So now the second one is frustration. You can be frustrated all day, all night. That's basically saying it is not enough. It is not good. in quality and it's not enough in quantity. So you're frustrated. Basically, you're saying, the experience that I am right now is unsatisfying. I'm disgruntled about it. Yeah, you're telling God, if you believe it, you're like, not enough, could do better. Like, really? So right now I could be like, you know what, I'm dehydrated, I'm staining, and I'm frustrated. I could choose that. The same way I could choose to react negatively when I'm in the water, holding my breath. After several minutes, I'm almost done, and somebody pushes me around because they don't care, think I'm a jellyfish or something. You know what I mean? So the frustration is on me. It's not me. Oh, yeah, but you pushed me and you were talking and you were a jerk to me. Can't you see I'm doing my practice? What would that say? The fragility that this would be. So it is on me to be resilient emotionally and to keep mediocrity at bay, starting with frustration. It's like, frustration, no. Why? Because this water, I could say, hey, you know what? It's just water, just drink it. But telling you, if you spend a whole day where I live in the high elevation desert of New Mexico and you don't have water and you go on, on a hike and you forgot your water, you run out of water and then you can have water and you're going to be like, whoa. Yeah. Okay. In the morning, instead of just drinking coffee right away, do this. Bring it to your nose. Smell it. Magnify it. Then sip it. Be like, okay, so appreciation, contentment. What happens if you intentionally decide to magnify your contentment? You have greater satisfaction. Is it because the coffee changed? No, but your relationship to the coffee, to the act of drinking coffee or tea or whatever that is, changed. So you make that to happen to yourself. Not only you are the one who made the cup of coffee, that was intentional, but you're the one who decide how, if you magnify the satisfaction, or if you just say that's just coffee, give me another cup and 10 cups at the end of the day, with no satisfaction from your coffee. You're like, I need my coffee. Yeah. You never experienced it in the way that you could through appreciation. And if you bring the appreciation one notch higher, you get gratefulness. And when you experience gratefulness, more in intensity and more in frequency, now you start to have a good life. And that's on you because you're not starving. You have food, you have shelter. It's very likely, unless you're homeless, you have friends, you have love, you have an able body, you have vision, you can hear, you can talk, you can learn things. What are you complaining about? What are you doing with all these precious gifts? So it's very simple. Trust and appreciate and become grateful, you can have a beautiful life. You can try to find a higher truth in that, and that's okay. Love, definitely a higher truth. But until you choose what it is that you choose to experience unconditionally, means I don't need the conditions to feel grateful. I don't need the conditions to even experience bliss or love. I can decide to experience them right here, right now, out of pure intention. That's it.
Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Where can people find out more information? Where can they check out your courses? And you have seminars and all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah. Thank you. For the physicality part, the movement part, natural movement. So you have MoveNat, MOVNAT. It goes for moving naturally, moving in nature. MoveNat.com. We've been teaching people how to move with efficiency since 2009. Think of it as the mixed martial art of real world physical capability. So if you learn MMA, you're going to learn a lot of techniques, and then you're going to do some conditioning because you want to become capable to defend yourself. Okay. Extend that mindset to all the movements that you could do outside in nature or even in a city, jumping, landing, climbing, all of that. So that's what we teach. So basically the physical education curriculum you wish you had received in school, but you did not. And the other one is BreathHoldWork.com. There's an e-course there. It's called the Meditation Masterclass. There are 4 modules. over 100 videos, hours of insights and exercises. No fluff. It's all very practical. You'll learn to recalibrate your breathing. You'll learn the science behind it. And then you start to hold your breath, and you'll learn the meditation tools. And it's not like any other meditation. It's not just observe your thoughts. It goes beyond that.
Cool. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.